Welcome to Tech Startup Stories, hosted by Natalie Binns. This is the podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the B2B startup world.
Hi, I'm Natalie Binns, and after many years as a marketing leader in the B2B SaaS industry, I set up Hey Gabby to support startups and scale-ups with their go-to-market and growth needs. I work with so many great founders, and that's led me to want to hear their stories and share them with others. And that's why I set up this podcast. So let's get into this week's podcast. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's podcast. This week, I'm speaking to a new guest. I'm speaking with Burak, and he is the CEO and founder of Bruin. Now, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you for being on the show. And we need to start with the company name because Bruin, it took me a while to kind of figure out, is that how you pronounce it? Tell me a bit more about what it means and how you came up with it for your company name.
Yeah. So Bruin means it's a particular type of a brown bear, and it also means brown, the color in Dutch, and we sort of like accidentally ran into the word, and then it was like a code word we used internally while we were building the first pieces of the company a couple of years ago. Part of that has like some association with. We spent part of our years in Berlin. Berlin had like a city symbol of a brown bear, and that was in the past. But we were like, okay, that would be like a nice association. And then we found like domain was available, and we're like, okay, let's keep it for now, and then we'll think of like maybe a different name down the line. And that never happened. We got used to it, we liked it, and then that was pretty much it for us. So we're Bruin now. And we're calling ourselves Bruins internally.
Oh, I love that. And I'm guessing that you've got lots of bears in the office.
Quite a bit. Yeah. We have like all kinds of different kinds of bears, different kinds of like types of bears. They're like in our swags, and like we have physical bears lying around in our offices and 3D printed stuff. And it's a lot. I mean, once you give people like a nice bear, it's like a good association. We recently even started like using those like jelly gums, like Haribos and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So like and they're all like bear shaped. So we're like, okay, hey, like here's ours, and we're now looking into making them Bruin branded as well. So that would be our what we give away in conferences and stuff.
So without thinking about it, you basically created this incredible marketing brand that your life is going to be so easy when it comes to, enticing and engaging your audience. I love it. Yeah, so what exactly do you guys do at Bruin? Tell me about the company and the product.
Yeah, we are building an AI data analyst. So it's basically an AI agent that connects to your company's data. It connects to your company's documentation and internal sources, and allows you to ask any question about your data and get an answer within seconds. So it's basically like what a human data analyst would do, but a lot faster, and can take on a lot more, and basically runs 24/7. It is essentially our way of bringing AI into the business intelligence and data space for organizations where companies start asking questions and then get their answers a lot faster than they were able to before.
And what really spurred the idea for this?
So both my co-founder and I, so we're two founders. He's a data scientist, I'm a software engineer. We worked at big companies. We worked with data quite a bit. We even did some consultancy for some time where we sort of helped other companies build their data infrastructure. And essentially, both of us got very frustrated with the idea that from the moment that you have a question, it takes a very long time until you get an answer, sometimes days, if not weeks, if not months. That means that there's a lot of infrastructure work, there's a lot of tools involved, a lot of human effort in terms of engineering effort to get these things to work, just to be able to answer, well, how much did we make yesterday? Or like, what is the most profitable marketing channel for us, and all these types of questions. And this sort of, at some point, we were making money off of this, mind you, like we're selling consultancy, but we got so frustrated, and we were like, well, there needs to be something, like maybe we can do something, We're like, engineers and we worked with data for a very long time. We worked in big companies, small companies. Could we build something at least for ourselves to satisfy our own urge? And that's how the first lines of code for the product has been written for us. And then once we had like the early version of the product a couple of years ago, we were like, okay, well, this works nicely for us. And we were still thinking for ourselves, it's not like, let's make this a product worldwide. Like, it's just like, let's just enjoy our work ourselves. And then I think it was my co-founder that said, okay, well, why don't we ask one of the customers that we work with and see if they would be willing to pay $100 a month, And then we were like, well, let's try. And they said, yeah, sure. Like, we would love to use it. We would love to use it ourselves as well. And then we were like, well, maybe there's a product. So we tried the same with the second customer and they said, nah. And then we went to a third and they said, yeah. So, well, we were like, oh, okay, there's a product. We might have ran into something. And then we started doubling down on that. And that's how the product was born. But essentially, the whole thing is basically a product of our own frustration in terms of how complicated and hard it is to work with data.
Amazing. And, you mentioned that you and your co-founder work for big companies. You've dealt with these kind of problems yourself. Is that who you're typically targeting? You're going after the enterprise space, or you're touching SMB as well?
We're doing a lot of SMB these days, essentially because there is, so we serve both parts, but we're a small company. We are innovating heavily in this space, and we're looking for types of companies that would be interested in that kind of innovation and that can move fast. One of the things that we're obsessed with is basically iteration speed for ourselves. How fast can we move as a company? How fast can we try things out, learn, and adapt our product? And that fast feedback loop requires a counterpart that can move fast and that can, push the product to its limits. Turns out that comes a lot more from smaller and mid-sized companies than large multinational enterprises. Therefore, we work with both. We have customers across all the way from 10 people, small gaming studios, all the way to like thousands of people, multinational retailers and banks and whatnot. But our sweet spot is those that are like, small, relatively smaller, the ones that are obsessed with moving fast. And we tend to enjoy working with them a lot more. And they're the ones that are pushing the product further. So that would be the best segment. Most often that's like companies that are smaller, like bigger than maybe 20, 30 people, smaller than a couple hundred people, and have some executives that are obsessed with moving fast.
Great. And you and your co-founder, where did you guys meet, and how did you know that the partnership of building a company was going to work for you both?
So we met around 10 years ago. We met at another job. We were both students, and we started working for this digital marketing agency. And we barely knew coding, and we sort of started learning everything together. And we have been trying to build products ever since. Like, we failed together maybe like 5-6 times before Bruin. We built different kinds of products, consultancy businesses. I think one of the things that I'm very happy about is like being a founder is like a very bumpy road. There's like a lot of like highs are very high, lows are very low, and the people that you're walking that road with, I think what's important is not that you can live the highs together, that I find relatively easy, but you need to be able to endure the lows together as well. So I think one of the things that I'm really happy about is that we learned how to fail together, because we failed so many times together, and we're essentially like, well, okay, like we're down today, and sometimes it's my bad day and he picks me up, and sometimes it's his bad day and I pick him up. But basically failing multiple times allowed us to, make Bruin possible. And in terms of like, I think one of the things that made us lucky in terms of that fit was, like, he's a data scientist. He's very deep into data science, led different recommendation teams and like in retailers and gaming companies and stuff. And I'm a lot more coming from engineering side, and we tend to have like attention that pulls us from like different angles and help us build like a product that that is able to actually cover a wide range of needs a business might have when it comes to their data. So our story around like 10 years that we built many things sort of helped us, prepared us for what Bruin is, hopefully.
And what's kept you going with all those kind of, lows and failures and learning together? What's kept both of you kind of moving forward rather than going, do you know what? It's much easier to be an employee just taking your paycheck.
100%. Like I keep asking myself the same question sometimes, but I guess like there's part of us just like enjoys building stuff, and we have that like sort of obsession around being able to do what we think is right, especially in bigger companies. Like jobs are very comfortable, like you're very happy, etc. But if you want to take initiative, if you want to do things, there's like so many barriers that you have to go through, so much political boundaries that you have to cross. Whereas if you do your own thing, it's like a fresh breath of air. So I guess like over time, every time we failed, we took like a couple months to recover from that, and then we're like, well, this got boring again, let's try something else now. I don't think we actively put effort into, recovering from those failures. It was more like gradually we came to our default state every time where we're like, okay, we still want to do something, the past couple months were terrible maybe, but like, let's go, let's try something else, let's attempt again. And I guess that's the part of the joy. Otherwise it's unbearable. Like it would be unbearable. Like, you know how it is. It's a lot of downs that you go through. Like sometimes the just like walls are closing in on you, and like it's sometimes like an absolute terrible job and terrible thing to do. But on the other hand, if you enjoy the game itself, it sort of becomes like a fun thing to do. And I found myself coming back to that every time that happened, and he found himself the same. So I guess that's like, we maybe just enjoy like going, like we enjoy the misery maybe. I don't know why you do that, but it's a lot of fun.
I love that. We enjoy the misery. That's brilliant. I'd love to know, apart from those customers that sort of said, yeah, happy to pay, 100 every month or whatever, and those that said no, well, they're not the right people for you. What was it about this journey that made you and your co-founder realize, actually, this is it for us? It may not be forever but that we know that this is a legitimate company and we're going all in on this, and we're not dabbling. This is going to be a serious business for us.
I think like, so originally we started building like a data infrastructure product, which evolved into like with the AI analyst and stuff. And from day zero, it was clear to us that we're selling a core piece of technology for these companies, which means that companies go through like a significant decision-making process just to be able to adopt a tool like us, which means that if they said like, yeah, we want to work with you guys, it essentially put a lot of responsibility on our shoulders, where we're like, okay, we have to deliver, and we have to make sure that like we're not gonna disappoint these people that wanted to work with us. And at the same time, it also signaled to us that, okay, we do have some value here. Like we don't know how valuable it is, but there's definitely something here, because previously we've built a lot of stuff that maybe didn't have the value. This time we were like, okay, there's a lot of like, people are willing to pay money. People are willing to spend months with us to help them build their core infra, and they are betting on us to make it a success for them, which means they see even bigger value than what they're paying to us potentially. So I would say like the first yearly contract that we signed with one of those customers was like a defining moment for us, where we said, okay, someone said I'm going to work with these guys and use this product for like at least a year. And then like, these are very intelligent, smart people that we respect, and they choose to work with us. Maybe they see something, and maybe we're onto something, And I would say like that was the moment, at least for me, that that was okay. Like stuff like this is getting serious, like let's go now. And then just kept building upon that. But I would say like one of the things that I learned over time was I would always want to build a product first and then find customers. But turns out the actual correct way, at least for us, was like it needs to be flipped. There needs to be a need for a particular problem, a particular solution. Like someone must have an actual problem that is big enough for them that they're willing to pay money for. And I think the founder is supposed to find those people and then build around those problems instead of just like shooting into the void and trying to build products for, just for their own joy, which is, it's fine. That doesn't mean that there's going to be a business. I think the other way around is much nicer. So that was like an additional component for us to say, okay, like we did find a problem. People are willing to pay money for this. They sign a contract. Let's now deliver.
Excellent. So you're a few years into the business now.
Yes.
I know that most founders, especially in these early days, are just, running very fast, dealing with the problems as they fire at you, kind of whack-a-mole style, and I'm interested to know, A, do you celebrate your wins? And B, how do you celebrate your wins? Because I think sometimes it's easy to just ignore them and keep going. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a very good question. We're definitely not celebrating enough, I would say. We're maybe like a good balancing factor between my co-founder and I is I tend to be the more pessimistic one. So I care a lot more about things that are not going so well compared to the ones that look great. And my co-founder is like it's a bit more like, well, let's celebrate. There's like a nice win and we signed a big customer and so we recently started doing a lot more sort of in-person events with our team and started sort of vocalizing some of these wins within the team a lot more in the forms of like, when we sign a new customer, like they're going to get a Slack message from me where I'm going to tell a bit about the customer and how we met and what they expect from us. We're going to talk about it in our weeklies. We're going to talk about it in our all hands. And for certain other types of news, we try to bring our team together into one place in the world, like sort of getting everyone together in a room, like maybe for a week, having some dinners and spending some time together as a team, etc. And trying to bring that whatever celebration that we want to do, like sort of having that in-person component to that so that people can actually bond together as well. With that being said, I still think like we're not doing enough of that. I don't think we're still, maybe I'm still too focused on what's not working well and then try to spend all my time on making whatever that is to making it work. But we're also, learning and evolving. And obviously what like the things that we celebrated when we were just two of us is a lot different than now. And obviously things that we celebrated like 6 months ago seem too small now, and that we continue to shoot higher and higher. And I guess like our sort of wins and losses keep changing over time. So I guess we're gonna relearn some of these. But I think for me, it's a lot about being able to share it with the team, making sure everyone is actually part of whatever that win is, and sometimes whatever that loss is, like whatever the down is, so that they understand that we're in this together, we're building this company together, and we're gonna celebrate and get upset together on some of these things.
Hopefully celebrate more than get upset.
Fingers crossed on that.
So I think if you go through LinkedIn, if you go to any trade show these days, and if I had a pound for every single AI company that I've seen in the last few years, I would probably be able to retire. Given how much there is going on, how do you stand out from the noise, especially given who you're engaging with and the buyers, being bombarded with all sorts of stuff?
Very hard thing to do, to be honest. Like I would be lying if I said we figured it out. There are a couple of things that we try to take as like as principles to try to build the brand that over time gains that trust. So we sell a core piece of infrastructure. People depend on us a lot. If we're down, if our systems have problems, if you have any problems, our customers are impacted a lot. So that means that a significant factor for us is basically to build that trust relationship with with companies even before they become a customer of ours. And if you want to do this in like a technical domain like ours, that means that meeting those technical people where they are and start being a reliable partner for them, that they can learn things from you, they can share things with you, they can be a part of your community so that they can, we grow together. So in practice, this means that we try to produce high quality technical content online. We try to produce organized events where there's like a high quality bar in terms of who can be a part of that event, what do the speakers do, and what are they going to talk about, etc. And hopefully associate our brand and our product with that deep technical expertise and a sense of quality in terms of what the product can do. The other part of that obviously is basically building like a unique product of its own, which we're in a pretty good position because basically we have built like an end-to-end data infrastructure, which allowed us to build an AI data analyst, even an AI data engineer at this point. So we have like a lot of technical advantages and a very deep moat there, but none of that matters if that trust relationship is not there. And I think people feel that a brand is not trustworthy across all of those little interactions that they make. So in terms of this means that like we produce all of that content. This means that I try to be present everywhere that people might be interested about Bruin, being like, I don't know, a local meetup in a city in Poland for like, I don't know, 15 people. I try to be there, all the way to like, I don't know, tens of thousands of people in like a giant conference. But also little things that I think matter. Like I produce a lot of content on LinkedIn. I do not ever use AI for any of those. And it's basically me hand typing everything myself, my raw thoughts. And people know that it actually comes from me. And then when I engage, like they send comments and they send DMs and we engage as humans, So that I think is a part of that trust relationship that we build. And same for our community, same for our in-person presences. So I guess like my answer is like the way that we try to stand out is basically being a trustworthy partner that has that technical expertise and understands their customers better than anyone else out there. That means that we often have to play the long game. So there might be a lot of hype in the market. There might be a lot of things that people are just talking today for like a couple of weeks and it's going to be gone. But no, we're going to be there for the long time. We have none of our early customers have stopped working with us. All of those people have been trusting us for years with their data infrastructure, with their corporate data. I would say that's how we stand out compared to other alternatives out there, And been doing this for a couple of years, which is long enough for startups our size to survive and keep growing and keep serving in such a technically tricky space. So I guess that would be it.
Brilliant. What's been the most challenging part of your startup journey with Bruin so far?
Well, there's been different challenges around building the business, but the one that I personally found very hard was I was not expecting hiring to be such a hard problem. Like everyone would say that, okay, like as a founder, you spend a huge chunk of your time on hiring. And I was like, what are you guys even doing? And I did like hiring. I was part of hiring processes in bigger companies, etc. I never noticed how much work like recruiters did. I never noticed how much like filtering they did and how much help we got. It was not apparent to me until I started hiring for my own company. So at this point, it has been and it still is to finding the right people and making sure they're the right people, both in terms of technical skills, but as well as the cultural fit and being a part of this team. I would say that has been like the biggest challenge that's constantly top of mind. Like every day I have like multiple interviews back to back for all kinds of roles. And it's not because like we're hiring like crazy, it's just that we're trying to hit a bar that will keep us happy with our team. But I'd say that's it. And maybe like a second sort of challenging part of building a company is that especially if you're an engineer, you are probably not used to selling stuff. And if you're building your own company, you would sell stuff. So I guess like the other challenge is getting comfortable with the idea of, okay, I'm going to talk about something that, and I'm going to ask you money to be able to use this. And I need to get comfortable with that idea. And I need to learn how to do that in a bit more structured way, and how to hire for that, and how to approach people for that, etc. And that's been like the second sort of smaller challenge for me, and a bit more personal side.
Thank you for sharing that. I think, I mean, this is why so many recruitment businesses exist, right? Because it is hard.
Yeah.
I've experienced that myself. It's challenging. And in these early days, every single individual matters. This is not when you're a big company, you can dilute the staff, and you have the odd person that doesn't quite fit, and there's natural churn. But in a really small team, the wrong person stands out for all the wrong reasons, and it can be really disruptive. And even the people that you really want to keep may leave because of that one person. So I totally understand how hard that is. What has been the most surprising part of your journey? Probably more positive angle on this, but what's been the most surprising part of your journey so far?
There's maybe two things that come to mind. The first one is, so I have worked with a lot of engineering teams, and I've always considered like engineers to be, preferring to stay more in their domains rather than, going deeper into the business and product, etc. What was like a very surprising realization for me was, if you hire people with the assumption that, and tell this to them as well, that they're expected to know the product in and out, they're expected to talk to the customers all the time, suddenly you start having these engineers within your organization that also act like customer support people, that act like customer success people, that start spending a lot of time with the customer to understand what they're going through, what they're trying to do, and then propose solutions around that. And this has been like, even like very junior members of our team started displaying the same behavior, which meant that we suddenly started getting a lot of help from them in terms of being able to manage our growing customer base, because we cannot keep up with everything going at the same time. But people just, once they had that understanding and that sense of responsibility, they just started picking things up and delivering on them by themselves, which was like a very nice realization for me. And the second sort of nice surprise on that is, I don't know if it's a surprise, but I am personally like, I think in terms of iterations, I try to do things and see their results relatively quickly. And I expect the same in engineering, same in sales, same in, I don't know, marketing, but it's not always like that. But what surprised me in a very positive way is, over time, we started noticing that some of the seeds that we planted in terms of like relationships, in terms of conversations we had, started coming back to us like months, if not years later, and they ended up becoming our customers. Some of them ended up joining our team. Some of them ended up being advisors and investors and whatnot, So it was not apparent to me. It sounds silly when I say it out loud, but it was not apparent to me that like you need to just plant a lot of seeds and have a lot of conversations and just be like a decent human being, and then life finds other ways of rewarding you through those relationships. And a lot of business turns out as relationships, So again, being an engineer, again, being maybe a very obvious thing to say, it was not obvious to me that it's all relationships. I was like, okay, we're going to build a good product and we're set. It's not like that. But thankfully, we started building some good relationships early on. We started helping a lot of customers for free, even. Like they were not even customers of ours. We just like spent hours of time with them. And eventually all of those started coming back. So now we're trying to be even more intentional about doing that. We're like, okay, we're just gonna give back. And I also feel that like other more experienced founders have been doing that with us. They've been like sharing their learnings, sharing their advice. I only have like tiny bit of it, expertise only for a couple of years as a founder, but I try to give that back as much as I can to people if I can help in any way. So I guess like it ended up being like a nice part of my life at this point, that those relationships started popping up in different places, and then we try to keep building that. Yeah, I guess that's what I would say.
I love it. And if you could go back to Burak 3 years ago, what advice would you give to yourself, starting out the company? I'm sure there's lots, but tell me what the highlights would be.
I don't know where to start. I would say one of the things that I was a bit more obsessed early on was to sort of, I had an idea of like good brands of good types of companies that I wanted to work with, and like sort of like good logos and, like fancy companies that I would want to have as customers and stuff. And I sort of like pushed on that for quite some time. If I would go back now, I would tell myself that like don't even try to get that. Like there's so much more value outside of like those big giant companies than, I mean, there's so many great people out there, and those people are going to be the ones that are going to teach you the most about your own product. The earlier you focus on them, the earlier you try to find those kinds of people, the better, instead of chasing like what would be the I don't know, like a fancier logo, a greater company to work with, etc. Because they all seem nice from the outside, but only when you start working with them, you notice that, well, this is not worth my time at all. And I spent so much time and effort in this whole deal and in this whole process. And on the other hand, you have these like easygoing, great smaller teams, that will just deliver so much great feedback that the rate of iteration for our products keeps growing. So this works both for those fancy companies as well as like larger enterprises. I would be like, you're a small company, don't chase like a giant bank from a get-go, because we did that and there was some interest, but it was like, we're like, I don't know, like 4 months old, and then like a big bank approaches and they're like, they start pulling you to like meetings, and then you get excited, and just don't. I would just tell myself and like, stop, like don't even talk to these people. Find yourself more passionate, forward-looking people, and don't care about like how big their companies or not. Just hear them out, work closer with them.
I love that. That's brilliant advice. So I guess my next question is, what is your long-term goal for the company? So what does the next 10 years look like?
We're basically trying to change how people work with data. So we're essentially saying that for the past 8-10 years, teams have been building so much complexity in order to handle the data. Part of that is basically like industry has evolved quite a bit, and there was like a lot of successful companies that had very successful marketing that was good for them but not good for customers, and then a lot of companies bought into that, and we sort of took like a completely different took a step back and said, okay, we can change this whole thing. And the goal essentially is to prove the rest of the world that it's a lot easier to work with data than they make it to be. And it's a lot faster, it's a lot cheaper, and it's basically effortless to do so. And if we're successful on our journey, that means that there's two metrics that I advertise. One of them is like time to insight. The other one is cost per insight. So how long does it take for you to get an insight? So from the moment that you ask a question till you get that answer, how long is that time? And how much does that insight cost you in terms of time, in terms of opportunity cost, in terms of labor, tools, whatnot? If we're successful in this journey, both of these numbers are going to go significantly lower, and multiple orders of magnitude lower. Whatever it takes weeks should take minutes now, if not seconds, if we're successful. So the plan is basically proving the rest of the world that this is possible and this is doable, and we're doubling down on that to make that reality. Part of that work is basically the infrastructure side of things, so that you build tooling with that in mind. And a very important part of that is making AI a part of that, so that people can treat Bruin as as one of their team members, as one of their colleagues. They can ask any questions and they can get reliable, accurate answers out of that. And we are very excited to have proven this already on our current scale, and we're just looking to making this a bigger reality. So hopefully in 10 years from now, people are not going to be hiring data engineers anymore. People are not going to be spending weeks on getting in, asking a question and getting a dashboard out of that. They're simply going to be able to ask Bruin, and anything that's longer than a minute is going to be unacceptable to them.
Brilliant. And in terms of the next 12 months, you may already know this, but we love to get people back after a year. So what is the plan for the next 12 months for Bruin?
So there is on the business side, we work across different geographies. We recently started doubling down on the States. So one of the goals that we have for the next 12 months is grow our customer base in the States to make the US our majority customer geo. It's currently not the majority, but getting closer every month. So basically, we're trying to understand the US market better, and then work with a lot of customers there. And while doing that, the goal is to basically triple our customer count without growing our team more than 50%. And that if we're successful in that, over time, we're going to find some levers in the business in the next months that will help us to scale the business side of things without having to scale the headcount, hence allowing us to be a lot more efficient and hopefully innovate along the way to be more efficient. So if you were to speak again in 12 months, I would ask myself, what percentage of our customers are from the States now, and did that already become a majority? And hopefully the answer will be yes. And then the second question would be, well, how many people are you now? And hopefully we're not going to be more than 50% bigger than we're now.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today.
Natalie, thanks a lot for having me. Really appreciate it. It was great to chat with you, and thank you.
That's it for this episode of Tech Startup Stories. Have a story you'd like us to share, or a topic you'd want to cover? Reach out and we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care.